വേദിയിലും സദസ്സിലുമായുള്ള എല്ലാ വിശിഷ്ടാതിഥികൾക്കും എൻ്റെ വിനീത നമസ്കാരം. ഇന്ന് വളരെ പ്രത്യേകതയുള്ളൊരു ദിവസമാണ് ഈ ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെൻറ്റിന്. സാധാരണയുള്ള ഒരു കാൻഡിഡേറ്റ് അല്ല ഇന്ന് ഓപ്പൺ ഡിഫൻസിനായിട്ട് ഇവിടെ എത്തിയിരിക്കുന്നത്. നിങ്ങൾക്കെല്ലാവർക്കും വളരെ സുപരിചിതനും അതുപോലെ പല പല സബ്ജക്റ്റിൽ റിസർച്ചറായിട്ടുള്ള വളരെ വിശിഷ്ടമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു വ്യക്തിയാണ് ഇന്നത്തെ കാൻഡിഡേറ്റായിട്ട് ഇവിടെ എത്തിയിരിക്കുന്നത് എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ആ പ്രത്യേകത. ഡോക്ടർ അച്യുതശങ്കർ സാറിനെ കുറിച്ച് നമ്മൾക്കെല്ലാവർക്കും എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം. അദ്ദേഹം ഒരു റിസർച്ചറാണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അത് വെറും റിസർച്ചറല്ല, എല്ലാ ഫീൽഡിലും അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ഏതൊക്കെ ഫീൽഡാണെന്ന് എനിക്ക് പോലും അറിഞ്ഞൂടാ. അത്രയധികം ബഹുമുഖ പ്രതിഭ എന്ന് വിശേഷിപ്പിക്കാവുന്ന ഒരാളാണ്. ഇത്രയധികം കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഇത്ര സൂക്ഷ്മമായി എങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യുന്നു എന്ന് എനിക്ക് അറിഞ്ഞൂടാ. ഇപ്പോൾ തന്നെ ഇവിടെ ഇന്നത്തെ അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ വിഷയം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ സ്വാതിരുന്നാളിനെ കുറിച്ചാണ് എന്ന് മാത്രം നമുക്ക് വേണമെങ്കിൽ ഒരു പൊതുവായിട്ട് പറയാം. പക്ഷേ ഹിസ്റ്റോറിസിറ്റി ഓഫ് ദ പേഴ്സൺ ആൻഡ് ദ ഓതൻസിറ്റി ഓഫ് ഹിസ് കോമ്പോസിഷൻസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഈ വിഷയം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അദ്ദേഹം അതിൻ്റെ തലനാരിഴ കീറി ഓരോരോ സബ്ജക്റ്റ് അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ കോമ്പോസിഷൻ എന്നോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഹിസ്റ്ററി ആണെങ്കിലും അതുപോലെ ലൈഫാണെങ്കിലും എല്ലാത്തിനെക്കുറിച്ചും വളരെ തലനാരിഴ കീറി പരിശോധിച്ച് സൂക്ഷ്മമായിട്ട് ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ള ഈ ഗവേഷണ ഗ്രന്ഥം ശരിക്കും പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അതൊരു വെറും ഗവേഷണ ഗ്രന്ഥം എന്ന് മാത്രം നമുക്ക് പറയാൻ പറ്റില്ല. അതൊരു ഈ ട്രാവൻകൂറിൻ്റെ തന്നെ ഒരു ഹിസ്റ്ററി ആയിട്ട് മാറുന്ന തരത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു ഗ്രന്ഥമാണ്. അത്രയധികം ഓതൻറ്റിസിറ്റി അതിനുണ്ട് എന്ന് എനിക്കല്ല എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഇന്നത്തെ ദിവസം എന്തായാലും വളരെ പ്രത്യേകത ഉള്ളതാണ്. ഈ ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെൻറ്റിന് തന്നെ അഭിമാനിക്കാവുന്ന ഒരു ഗ്രന്ഥമാണ് ഇവിടെ ഇന്ന് പ്രകാശനം ആവുന്നത്. അതൊരു വെറും ഓപ്പൺ ഡിഫൻസ് അല്ല എന്നുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ. The duty conferred upon me is to welcome the distinguished guests here. First of all, I would like to welcome Dr. B.M. Jayashree, the HOD, Department of Performing Arts, Bangalore University. Now she is not new to us. She comes often here as a chairman of many open defenses. On behalf of this department and each and every person here, I would like to extend a hearty welcome to Dr. B.M. Jayashree. Now I extend a hearty welcome to Pushpa teacher, the former HOD of this department and the guide. Dr. Achuthsankar heads the Department of Computational Biology and Bioinformatics and also the State Inter-University Center of Excellence in Bioinformatics, University of Kerala. He had his B.Tech Electrical Engineering from College of Engineering, Trivandrum, M.Tech from IIT Bombay, M.Phil from the Department of Engineering, University of Cambridge, UK, and PhD from University of Kerala. I extend a warm welcome to Dr. Achuthsankar. Now I welcome one and all once again. Now I invite Pushpa teacher to take over the proceedings of this open defense. Thank you.
ഇന്നത്തെ ഓപ്പൺ ഡിഫൻസ് അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് ഇവിടെ എത്തിയിട്ടുള്ള എല്ലാ സഹൃദയർക്കും, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് വിശിഷ്ട വ്യക്തികൾ അടങ്ങുന്ന ഈ ഓഡിയൻസിന് എല്ലാവരും ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ വിനീതമായ പ്രണാമം അർപ്പിക്കുന്നു. നമ്മുടെ ഭാവന പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ഇന്നൊരു പ്രത്യേകത ഉണ്ടെന്ന് മാത്രമല്ല, എത്രയോ കുട്ടികൾ ഇവിടെ നിന്ന് PhD ലഭിച്ച് പോയിട്ടുണ്ട്. പക്ഷേ ഇന്നത്തെ ഓപ്പൺ ഡിഫൻസ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ സംഗീതം അല്ലാത്ത, അതായത് മ്യൂസിക് അല്ലാതെ സ്വന്തം വിഷയത്തിൽ നിന്നും മാറി വേറിട്ട് സംഗീതത്തിൻ്റെ ആ ഒരു വിഷയത്തിൽ നല്ല വീരധീരതയോടെ മുന്നോട്ട് പോയി സംഗീതത്തിൽ തന്നെ തിരുവിതാംകൂർ യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി, പഴയ തിരുവിതാംകൂർ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന നമ്മുടെ കേരള യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റിയിൽ നിന്നും തന്നെ തിരുവിതാംകൂറിലെ ഒരു മഹാരാജാവിനെ കുറിച്ച്, അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ചരിത്രം, അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ സംഗീത സംഭാവനകൾ എന്നെല്ലാം അവയെല്ലാം ഓരോരോ പോയിൻ്റായിട്ട്, അതായത് എന്ത് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ടോ അതെല്ലാം പ്രൂവൺ ഫാക്ട്സാണ്. അത് നിറഞ്ഞു നിൽക്കുകയാണ് അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ഈ പ്രബന്ധത്തിൽ. അത് എല്ലാവർക്കും സാധിക്കുമോ സംശയമാണ്. എന്തായാലും ഇതുപോലെ വേറൊരു വിഷയത്തിൽ നിന്നും സംഗീതത്തിൽ PhD എടുക്കുന്ന ആദ്യത്തെ വ്യക്തിയാണ് ഡോക്ടർ അച്യുത്ശങ്കർ എസ് നായർ. അത് പ്രത്യേകത, നമുക്കത് പ്രത്യേക ഒരു അനുമോദനം കൊടുക്കുക തന്നെ വേണം ഡോക്ടർ അച്യുത്ശങ്കർ എസ് നായർ. എന്തുകൊണ്ടങ്ങനെ സാധിച്ചു എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഏതോ പറഞ്ഞു കേട്ടതിൽ നിന്ന് മനസ്സിലാക്കിയതും ചെറുപ്പകാലത്തിൽ എവിടെ നിന്നും ഒരു ഡ്രോപ്പ് ഓഫ് ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ അബൌട്ട് സ്വാതി മഹാരാജ കിട്ടിയെന്നും അത് മനസ്സിലാക്കിയ ഒരു ചെറിയ കുട്ടിയായിരുന്നപ്പോൾ അതിൽ നിന്നും അതിൻ്റെ പുറകെ പോയത് കൊണ്ട് മാത്രം എങ്ങനെ ആഗ്രഹം, വ്യഗ്രത, പരിശ്രമം എല്ലാം കൊണ്ടും അതിൻ്റെ പുറകെ അദ്ദേഹത്തെ സംബന്ധിച്ച് ഈ ബയോ ഇൻഫോർമാറ്റിക്സ് അല്ലാതെ ഈ കമ്പ്യൂട്ടർ സയൻസ് മറ്റു കാര്യങ്ങളല്ലാതെ എവിടെയെല്ലാം പോയോ, കേരളത്തിനകത്തും പുറത്തും ഇന്ത്യക്കകത്തും പുറത്തും മറ്റു രാജ്യങ്ങളിലെല്ലാം സഞ്ചരിക്കുകയും അവിടെ പേപ്പർ പ്രസൻറ്റേഷൻ, ടോക്സ്, ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂസ് എന്തൊക്കെയോ അതൊക്കെ അവരൊരു സബ്ജക്റ്റിൽ. അതോടൊപ്പം എവിടെ പോയാലും സ്വാതി മഹാരാജാവിൻ്റെ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു പേപ്പർ കിട്ടുമോ, എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു സെൻറ്റൻസ് കിട്ടുമോ, അത്രത്തോളം നോക്കി ആണ് അത് കളക്ട് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ആ തീസിസിൻ്റെ എക്നോളജ്മെൻറ്റ് മാത്രം വായിച്ചാലേ നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാകും എത്രത്തോളം അതിനകത്ത് പെയിൻ കൊടുത്ത് അത്രയും കാര്യങ്ങൾ നേടിയെടുത്തിരിക്കുന്നു എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ കിട്ടിയത് എല്ലാം കൂടി സംരക്ഷിച്ചാണ് ഈ ഒരു പ്രബന്ധം തയ്യാറാക്കാൻ സാധിച്ചത്. അത്രത്തോളം പരിശ്രമിയായതുകൊണ്ടാണ്, ഡെഡിക്കേറ്റഡ്. നമുക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒരു സാമ്പിളാണ് ഡോക്ടർ അച്യുത്ശങ്കർ എസ് നായർ. അത്രയും പരിശ്രമിക്കുന്നൊരു വ്യക്തി. പരിശ്രമിച്ചാൽ നമുക്ക് എന്താ കിട്ടാതെ നേടാൻ സാധിക്കും. പിന്നെ സംഗീതത്തിലാണ് PhD എടുക്കാൻ പോകുന്നത്. സോ ഈ സംഗീതം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് പറയാനുള്ള സംഭവമല്ല, പാടാനുള്ളതാണ്. അവനവൻ പാടി സമാധാനം, സാന്ത്വനം നമുക്ക് കിട്ടുകയും മറ്റുള്ളവരെ രസിപ്പിക്കുകയും ചെയ്യേണ്ട അതും അദ്ദേഹത്തിനുണ്ട്. വെറുതെ പേപ്പറിലും മഷിയും കൊണ്ട് മ്യൂസിക് അല്ലാതെ സംഗീതത്തിനെ നല്ലപോലെ ആസ്വദിച്ച് പാടുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്, സംഗീത കച്ചേരിയും ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. അങ്ങനെ ഒരു വ്യക്തിയും കൂടിയാണ്. മാത്രമല്ല ഒരു കച്ചേരി ചെയ്യാൻ എന്തെല്ലാം നമ്മൾ മെനക്കെടണം എന്നുള്ളത് നമുക്കെല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം. പക്ഷെ അതിനെങ്ങനെ സമയം കണ്ടെത്തും എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. ഇത്രയും ബിസി ഷെഡ്യൂളിനിടയിൽ ഇടയ്ക്കൊരു സംഗീത കച്ചേരി അതും നന്നായിട്ട് ചെയ്യും. നമ്മൾ സംഗീതത്തിൽ പറയുന്ന നാദം, ശ്രുതി, സ്വരം, രാഗം, താളം, ലയം, സാഹിത്യം ഇവയെല്ലാം ചെറുതായിട്ടുള്ള ഇത്രയും കാര്യങ്ങളെല്ലാം ഒരുമിച്ചാണ് അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ സംഗീത കച്ചേരി നമ്മൾ കേൾക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അദ്ദേഹത്തിനകത്തുള്ളത്. മാത്രമല്ല ഈ ശ്രുതിർമാത ലയപിത എന്നൊരു വാക്യവും അദ്ദേഹം പൂർത്തീകരിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട് എന്നാണ് എൻ്റെ അഭിപ്രായം. അത്രത്തോളം സംഗീതത്തിനെ സ്നേഹിച്ച് മുന്നോട്ട് കൊണ്ടുപോകുന്ന ഒരു വ്യക്തി. ഇനി സംഗീതത്തിന് വേണ്ടാന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാലും സംഗീതം പോകത്തില്ല അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്, അത്രത്തോളം ലയിച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞു. അങ്ങനെ സ്വാതി മഹാരാജാവിൻ്റെ എന്തൊക്കെയോ കാര്യങ്ങൾ പണ്ട് ഒരു 80s മറ്റോ എന്തൊക്കെയോ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നുവെങ്കിൽ തന്നെ അതിൻ്റെ പുറകെ അതൊന്നുമേ അല്ല എന്ന് എസ്റ്റാബ്ലിഷ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു പ്രബന്ധമാണ് ഡോക്ടർ അച്യുത്ശങ്കർ എസ് നായർ. അപ്പോൾ അത് ഇത്രയും സാധിച്ചത് അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ പരിശ്രമം കൊണ്ട് തന്നെയാണ് എന്ന് യാതൊരു സംശയമില്ല. പിന്നെ അച്യുത്ശങ്കർ എസ് നായർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നൊരു വ്യക്തി എത്രയോ വർഷങ്ങൾക്ക് മുമ്പ് പിന്നെ സ്വാതി മഹാരാജാവിൻ്റെ വെബ്സൈറ്റ് എന്തോ ക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് എൻ്റെ അടുത്ത് പറഞ്ഞു, ഇങ്ങനെ SS ഡിജിറ്റൽ പോയാൽ മതി, തൈക്കാട് കുറച്ച് റയർ കോമ്പോസിഷൻ സ്വാതിയുടെ പാടി തരാമോ, വെബ്സൈറ്റാണ്. നമുക്കറിയില്ല, ഏതോ ഒരു വ്യക്തി അച്യുത്ശങ്കർ എസ് നായർ വെച്ചാൽ ബയോ ഇൻഫോർമാറ്റിക്സ് ഒന്നും എവിടെയാണോ ഒന്നും അറിയത്തില്ല. ഞാൻ I was in വിമൻസ് കോളേജ്. അപ്പോൾ ഇങ്ങനെ പറഞ്ഞു, ഓക്കെ നമ്മളത് കഴിയുന്ന പാടുമല്ലോ, അങ്ങനെ എന്തെങ്കിലും പാടാം. അങ്ങനെ കുറേ കോമ്പറ്റൻസ് പാടി, അതോടെ തീർന്നു. പക്ഷേ അത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് ആ ഒരു അച്യുത്ശങ്കർ ആര് എന്നുള്ള എഗെയിൻ ഒരു റിവ്യൂ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ റിന്യൂവൽ വന്നത് കാകൈ ചെറുകനയിലെ നന്ദലാല എന്ന പാട്ടിൽ കൂടിയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ എവിടെയോ പെട്ടെന്ന് ഒരു ചാനൽ ഓൺ ചെയ്തപ്പോൾ നന്നായിട്ട് പാടുന്നു, വെറുതെ പറയരുത്, മുഖസ്തുതിയൊന്നുമില്ല, നന്നായിട്ട് പാടുന്നു. അയ്യോ അച്യുത്ശങ്കർ പാടുമോ എന്ന് തോന്നി. അങ്ങനെ തന്നെ പാടുന്നു. ആ പാട്ട് കേട്ടപ്പോൾ തന്നെ അപ്പം തന്നെ ഞാൻ വിളിച്ചു. ലാൻഡ് ഫോൺ ഉണ്ട്, അത് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അറിയാമായിരിക്കും. ഈ മൊബൈൽ കൊണ്ട് സാധനം കയ്യിലില്ലാത്തൊരു വ്യക്തിയാണ്. അതിന് പ്രത്യേകം നമ്മളൊരു ക്ലാസ് കൊടുക്കേണ്ട ആളാണ്. ഇത്രയും സഞ്ചരിക്കുന്നൊരു വ്യക്തിയുമാണ്. നമ്മളെല്ലാവരും ഇത് ഒരു കുഞ്ഞിനെ പോലെ താഴെ വയ്ക്കാതെ കൊണ്ടു നടക്കുന്ന സാധനമാണ്. പക്ഷേ ആ ഒരു ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആയിട്ടൊരു സാധനം കയ്യിലില്ലാത്തൊരു വ്യക്തി, അതുവരെ എടുത്ത് പറയേണ്ട കാര്യമാണ്. എന്തായാലും ലാൻഡ് ഫോണിൽ വെച്ച് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു, നന്നായിട്ട് പാടി, നന്നായിരിക്കുന്നു എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. അതിൽ നിന്നുമാണ് എഗെയിൻ സംഗീതത്തിലോട്ട് വന്നത്. പക്ഷേ സ്വാധീനമായിട്ട് വരുന്നുണ്ട് ഒട്ടും വിചാരിച്ചില്ല. എന്തായാലും വളരെ അശ്രാന്ത പരിശ്രമം കൊണ്ടാണ് ഈ PhD തീസിസ് അദ്ദേഹം ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. എനിക്ക് ഭയങ്കര അഭിമാനമുണ്ട്. ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു ബഹുമുഖ പ്രതിഭ, സ്കോളർ, ഹമ്പിൾ, സിമ്പിൾ, നോളജ്ഫുൾ, ഇങ്ങനൊരു വ്യക്തിയുടെ പ്രബന്ധത്തിന് എന്തു സഹായിക്കാൻ സാധിച്ചു എന്നതിൽ അഭിമാനമുണ്ട്. എന്തായാലും ഇനിയും അച്യുത്ശങ്കർ എത്രയോ ഉയരത്തിലെത്തട്ടെ, അതിന് ഈശ്വരനോട് പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു. നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം. I invite Dr. B.M. Jayasri, my friend, to conduct the open defense of Dr. Achuthsankar. Thank you.
Respected Vice Chancellor, Registrar and Registrar Evolution, and today's guide, my dearest friend, Dr. B. Pushpa, Professor Dr. B. Pushpa, and present HOD of Bhavana, and gathered here artists and audience and Achuthsankar Nair parents, for all of them my humble pranams. This is very excellent thesis has done. Very good subject has taken. He has put efforts in excellently. I am very happy to conduct this Viva. I am happily accepted this invitation. First, let him, Achuthsankar Nair, let him brief about this even topic. Okay, thesis. On 20 minutes. Then I will tell you about your thesis. Okay, thank you.
ദ്വിരതവദനനാകും ദേവനേയും പ്രമോദാത് സരസിജഭവജായാം ശാരദാദേവിയേയും ഗുരുവരനയും അസ്മദ് ഗോത്രജന്മാരെയും പരിജിനോടു ഭക്ത്യാ സന്തതം കൈതൊഴും. നമസ്കാരം. Let me first of all request the chairperson of the Open Defense to give me a bit more time than 20 minutes. My most respected supervising teacher, professor, scholar, musician, Dr. B. Pushpa, to whom I owe my rebirth in my music life. The chairperson of today's Open Defense, Professor Jayasri, head of the department, Dr. Bhavana, my parents, my family, my mentor, Professor Umman V. Umman, my dear friends, fellow teachers, dear students. I stand here with great joy. The research that I did, as far as university is concerned, is only for 3 years. But for me, it is 35 years of research. Once I sat beside my father and he sang a song which attracted me because I never knew he knew Hindi and he was singing in Hindi. And I wrote down the lyrics of the song and he told me that this is written by a king of Trivandrum called Swadhitranath. And ever after that, the name has never left me. And when I was a young man, I read with pain a lot of half-truths and falsehood printed and spread all over the country about this person. I had a feel that this was all wrong. But of course, I found it very difficult to argue so. But after 35 years, I can say with confidence that a lot of injustice has been done to a person. I don't respect Swadhitranath just because he was a king. I respect him for his poetic musical mind and his contributions. And I share the pain that he would have had if he ever knew what happened to his memories. So with these few words, I go on to present my findings about Swadhitranath, his historicity, his musical compositions, their earliest forms, their specialities, and then finally answer the allegations that were made, many of which have been answered in many ways by many people, but I have put it together. I have brought up 100 evidences to talk about Swati Tirunal. I don't talk anything without evidence. And about 40 of them are new. That is what the highlight of my research is. Next. I would also like to, for a moment, remember not only my father who is here, but his mother and all her sisters who were students of Lakshmanam Pillai and Muthaiya Bhagavathar, from whom he received old books which he handed over to me, and I never understood the relevance of those books. When I checked the dates of those books, I found that these have never been reckoned in these arguments. That also will be presented today. I would just briefly like to say I spent some time on research methodology because the issue was an argument about how something can be proved or not. I would like to quickly say that research method in history is different from that in science, but a scientific approach to validating data has to be followed if the findings in history has to be accepted. But in fine arts, I find that people are by very nature are people who do not confine to rules, because the key word in fine arts is creativity or manodharma. So it is not fair to ask a singer or an artist to be a stickler of rules. I think sometimes this happens in research also, but that is not acceptable. And I have found that in the West, there are methods called experimental aesthetics, where scientific research is done to find out which painting has more acceptance. I have actually tried to do a similar experiment in this thesis using computational methods. And I have also studied, rather than looking at Swati Tirunal, I have read a lot about how Saint Tyagaraja was biographed. And I closely followed that method to biograph Swati Tirunal, so that when there are comparisons, it is strong. Next. I would just like to quickly point out something that I have reported in my thesis. Very interesting that many of these points are relevant to the controversy about Swati Tirunal. There are likely pitfalls in historic study. I will just say one or two. One is failure to do analysis in the context, beliefs, biases, social scenario of the related period. You take a document of 200 years ago and look at it and read it with a mind of present, you would come to wrong conclusions. This has been done in terms of Swati Tirunal. Again, personal bias as in statement lifted out of context for the purpose of persuasion in argument. This also I will point out as a very simple method that has been used to attack Swati Tirunal. Next. And what I mean by historicity of the person is, friends, you must know, there may be no person, no cultural figure in Kerala who had got this choicest abuse. He was termed as not born to a mother. We have heard of people being called not born to a father. And we never realized that calling somebody not born to a mother is even more nasty and hard hitting. That is what he was called. And the argument was there was no person by that name. He wasn't born on the date which is claimed, and that date seems to be very confusing in different records, and nobody knows when he passed away, etc., etc. So I've answered all of this, and I stand here with 100% confidence that no one on earth can challenge the findings that I have reported. Next. He was, no doubt, born on 16th April 1813 in the star Chodi, which is called Swati in stylish manner. And n number of proofs are there, one of which was wrong. If something is wrong, you say it is wrong. You don't actually cling to that and say everything else is wrong. When you have 100 evidences and one is wrong, that means one is wrong. In 1820 in London, Walter Hamilton printed a book in which the birth of Swati Tirunal is actually referred to. And it says on 16th April 1813, Rani of Travancore was delivered of a son, and that a white elephant was caught in the forest in Chathamattam. I would like to say how Kerala loves Swati Tirunal. In 2013, in a school in Chathamattam, they erected a statue of a white elephant. That is how much they love, people of Kerala love Swati Tirunal. Chathamattam is far away from Trivandrum, as you might recognize. And Dr. Umman V. Umman is here. I discussed with him. I don't think this is a miracle. I think this is an elephant with melanin deficiency. That is what it is. But it is 200 years ago, it was quite natural that it was thought of as a miracle. And I also would like to point your attention to this interesting reference made by the Sahib, that when he was declared as the king, the British troops presented arms and their band played God Save the King, while the music of Travancore made a considerable noise. That is what the person has referred to about music when the Prince of Music was born. Next. His name, what was his name? There is no doubt, I would like to refer to, I have so many evidences in the thesis, but I like to refer to evidences from Madras for the reason that there won't be any allegation of any bias or influence. So in 1937, a book was published in Madras. This was when Swadhiranal was very much alive, and it was republished in London in 1939. The copies are available in the British Library, and it says that in the observatory in Trivandrum, a marble tablet has been erected with the following text, and the text is shown here, and its name is shown as Swadi Ramaraja Bahadur. And that marble stone is still there, and it is under the University of Kerala. Walking distance from here, you can go and see the stone. His name is there, written on stone, published in England. There is no doubt whatsoever. Next. This is a talk about, this thesis is about his music, but I would like to quickly say that he was a patron, great patron of science as well. And why I say this is to project his personality, that he was not an ordinary person and what kind of things he did. Next. We all know observatory, library, zoo, these all came up during his times. And Welsh was very impressed by visiting him. He again published in England a book in which he says he was impressed with the knowledge of Pythagoras' theorem. He drew it in a slate, the proof of the Pythagoras theorem, to this visitor. And that he knew the etymology of mathematical terms like geometry, pentagon, hexagon, etc. He was taught science by Subbarao, who was taught science by a person, Westerner, called Elias Schwartz, and he is the author of Flora Botanica. And he used to read astronomy journals, proceedings of the Astronomical Society of England, and he used to discuss with Caldecott, the observatory director, about the calculations, how the Indian system and the Western system were different. He was no ordinary person. Next. In 1834, he established a free school in Trivandrum. The person who ran the school, John Roberts, started it on the condition that Bible should be taught in the school. And I asked this question, why did a Hindu king permit Bible to be taught? And Pirappangodu Murali MLA answered this question for me. This is opinion, not a fact. He said that Swadhiranal knew Travancore had no arms, no military. All that arms it could have was education. And he knew that people would get converted to Christianity even in the school, because Bible is taught. But he read that even if they convert to Christianity, those Christians would also rise against the British, which is what exactly happened in Travancore. And he was elected, he also visited the school and gave golden rings, 4 golden rings to the good students. He asked questions and gave. So he was not a person who signed files. He was genuinely interested in science. He was elected Fellow of the Royal Asiatic Society of England. And 8th May 1847, the society ran a printed, in its printed proceedings, it ran an obituary which said, "We mourn the early death of enlightened and princely patron of true science." We do not know that he was a patron of science. We only know he was a patron of music. And Shankaravarman, the last mathematician of Kerala school, was promoted by him. His work, Sadratnamala, is dedicated to him. Next. And I have purchased a letter from the Royal Society, a letter of 1843, in which he says that he promotes observatory undeserving celebrity status that is likely to be his due to the patronage of science. This is not an ordinary sentence. Somebody who could see future. Next. That is the letter, and we do not know whether it is his handwriting, but his signature is there in it. Whether it is a manuscript copy, we do not know. Next. And what time he died, none of the Trinity, nobody would be able to say with confirmation when they passed away. With Swadhiranal, exact time itself is available. 4 a.m., 27th December 1846. There was big confusion whether it was 26th or 27th. Dr. R.P. Raja is here. He said, by the Indian tradition, the next day, 27th, is born at 6 a.m. only. Until 6 a.m., 5 a.m. is 26th. 27th is born only on after 6 a.m. Therefore, this is referred in Travancore as 26th, but Britishers refer it consistently as 27th. There is no confusion. Some people say 87. That is because the Malayalam era is wrongly converted to English dates. That is why that confusion comes. There is no confusion regarding his date of demise. He reeled under political crisis and pressure, everybody knows. Removal of his guru from Travancore was very, very hard on him. In the summary that I have given, I have quoted a letter by him which says how much stressed he was. He was constantly failing in health since 1841. He was treated with Ayurvedic and English medicines. And I am shocked to tell you that the kind of drugs which were given to him was diluted sulfuric acid was given, to all patients, not only him in the hospital. Possibly with the thought that, it would kill germs or, something of that sort. That would have aggravated the situation. And a quack drug called Holloway's drug was given to him. And 3 months before death, he rewarded the doctor with a ring. He seems to be full of habit of giving away rings. So he gave a ring to the doctor saying that I am feeling better. So the sentence in the Madras Old Office record says at 4 a.m. he calmly passed away calmly without any visible sign of painful suffering. This is the primary evidence of his death. He walked and took meals hours before the demise, and therefore we cannot assume that he had pryobovation. Some people say he didn't take food and died. That is not true. And suicide is also ruled out because even 1 month before he was energetically trying to attack the resident and make arguments with British. Is there a conspiracy? We do not know. Slow poisoning cannot be ruled out because the doctor who treated him, Dr. Colin Patterson, was living with his enemy, Cullen. They were staying in the same place in Takkad. So we cannot rule this out. I have no evidence to argue. Next. I end this session with also pointing out that there are many pictures of Sadhu Tirunal that are in circulation. How did he look like? I believe he looked like the first one. What is my evidence? This is the resemblance that is given in Travancore history by Shangundi Menon. And who is Shangundi Menon? 1 year younger to Sadhu Tirunal and worked under him in the Travancore government. And so he would have understood the resemblance. So that is the picture that I say is faithful resemblance. Next. So the conclusion is there is absolutely no confusion regarding Sadhu Tirunal's date of birth, demise, name or formal title. And multiple and secondary evidences are available. There are many more I have listed in my thesis. Next. So evidences on compositions now. We are coming to the compositions. So were Swadhi's songs unknown before 1930? That is one argument. When Sir C.P. Ramasamy came, he artificially produced some fame for Sadhu Tirunal. I would like to say, before I just go into details, is absolutely wrong. So was it known in Kerala? Was it known in South India? Was he a Vagayakara or was he just a lyricist? He just wrote and somebody tuned. This is a question that we would like to answer. Very difficult question to answer. Actually, very difficult question to answer for any composer because there is no evidence, direct evidence. Next. So I searched all the manuscripts in the manuscript library. So all these books that you see are Sadhu Tirunal compositions, handwritten. And how do we date them? It is very difficult to date them. Luckily for Sadhu Tirunal, all these books, you open the pages and keep it against the sun, you will see the name of the the paper manufacturing company, Newton, and the year of the paper, 1837. So we cannot say that if it is 1837, he wrote in 1837. It could have been written in 1847 or 57. But the likelihood that it is 1837 is there. That is all we can claim. So all of these, and you can see his influence on Hindustani songs because he has copied in Malayalam text, he has copied Kabir songs, Hindi songs in Malayalam text. That is where the influence comes from. 23 paper manuscripts are there. No other composer would have such a very well protected collection of manuscripts. And 12 palm leaf granthas are there. Next. And I list a number of evidence about reference to his music, secondary evidences. I only discuss here a few. In the Panjaraga Swarajadi, there was a lyrics given to it by somebody else. How do we know it is somebody else? Because it refers to, the reference to it in the text is like that. The person who wrote the lyrics says, head bent down in reverence, I am giving Sahitya to the Dadu composed by Swadhi. Swadhi Nripakrida Gana Midamiha. That is what he says. So somebody is writing lyrics for the music of Sadhu Tirunal. Ramavarma Vijayam Champu says, Kulasekara Raja of Travancore composing in many languages and using the Mudra Padmanabha, visiting Kanyakumari with his brother. And we have evidence that Swadhirinal visited Kanyakumari in 1841 with his brother and his nephews and all that. So that is him, and the reference is very obvious. Next. And I am the luckiest person doing research that you get evidence that people have been looking for. It simply flew to me just with a press release that I gave in Madhrubhumi asking for old books. Somebody called and said they have a book in 1827. I went and searched. I was shocked to see the book was not from 1927. The book was not from 1927. It was from 1853. 6-7 years after Swadhirinal died, there was a book published in Trivandrum. You can read. It says, Swadhirinal Punnudambiran Kalpichondakiyadil Ulsava Prabandhavum Ajamilovakyanavum Kujayilovakyanavum Manipravala Padangalu. 50 padam undu, 86 പാട്ടുകൾ ഉണ്ട് അതിനകത്ത്, including 3 Sanskrit compositions are there. And this is, I claim, after sufficient research and consultation, I claim this is the first book in Carnatic music published in South India. There is no doubt about it. The first book that is claimed in Tamil Nadu as the first book in Carnatic music came out in 1859, 4 years after Swadhirinal and Tyagaraja passed away. And that has one song of Swadhirinal in it. That is the most interesting thing. In Madras, when first book was printed, it had one song of Swadhirinal. So who was there in Madras trying to promote Swadhirinal, trying to create a larger than life image? We do not know. Actually, there is no one. That is why we do not know. And next. And he is also one person who is biographed so well in the 19th century itself. Pachamuthada is the first history writer of Travancore. 1868 he has written a biography of Swadhirinal in his book, which says a scholar in literature, music and many languages. Name is mentioned specifically as Chodithirinal Kulasekara Perumal. And Lakshmanam Pillai's biography says in 1870 when he studied music, his teacher was Pappu Pillai and he knew no songs of Tyagaraja. He knew only Ashtabadis and Swadhirinal compositions in 1870. And in 1878, Reverend Samuel Matir, in whose name is the LMS Church established, says, he gives a translation of his Swadhirinal song, Varnam, Jagadisha Sri Jane, and he says it is composed and published by the late Raja Vanji Balarama Varma and adapted to be sung in the most popular and melodious Hindu tunes. Very obvious reference to a composer, not a lyricist. Next. And 1877, Shyama Shastri's son's disciple, Tachur Singarajarulu, printed a book called Gayaka Parijadam, in which a song, Sarasa Samamukha, appears. I am actually very amused that this song, which is not perhaps one of the best compositions of Swadhirinal, seems to be the most famous one. The 1859 book had it. This book in 1877 has it. It is worth researching why it caught the attention of everyone, because it is such a simple song. Sarasa Samamukha Paramavama Sanagamuka Vinuta Sarasa Samamukha Paramavama Sanagamuka Vinuta Sarasa Samamukha Paramavama. This song seems to be sung all over South India. We have any number of evidence to find that it was sung all over South India. So this book contains it, and the name is referred as Malayalappu Kulasekara Maharajugari Kridulu. That is how it is referred. And in 1878, Shangundi Menon, who is, as I already mentioned, contemporary of Swadhirinal, he says he composed numerous songs and hymns in Telugu, Hindustani, Maratha. They are even to the present day known throughout India. His brother was inferior to him in musical accomplishment. This is the reference that he makes. Next. And I also came across yet another rare book. 1883, a book was published in Cochin by a person, Chalayil Valavilagath Veetil Bhagavati Pillai. We don't know who it is. and it has 31 Sanskrit compositions, and one of the songs nobody has ever heard, Palaya Yamuna Kula Vihara in Mohanam. Next. And in Bhasha Charitam in 1883 by P. Govinda Pillai, not the PG that we know of, but this is a person in the last century. So he says, great scholar in literature, music and many languages, composed, not written songs, composed in Sanskrit, Telugu, Manipravalam, etc. All of them being sung by musicians both in Kerala and outside. This is what the reference is. Next. And there is a proceedings called Hindu Music and Gayan Samaj, which was printed in 1887. Balachandar, who raised this controversy about Swadhi Tirunal, read this book. In fact, he should have stopped the controversy then and there, because this is the most wonderful evidence about Swadhi Tirunal's ability as composer, because his own nephew talks about him in that book. So Vishagan Tirunal replied to a question. The question is very not surprisingly about Sarasa Samamuga. He asked, he was asked, was the air Sarasa Samamuga composed by Maharaja Kulasegara? If so, at what date? It appears popular all over South India. This is mentioned by a British man, not by a Trivandrumite. And the answer of Vishagan Tirunal is, the note Sarasa Samamuga was composed by Vanji Balarama Varma Kulasegara Perumal Maharaja, who reigned between 1829-30 and 1846-47. He is referring to the Malayalam dates. That is why he puts the 2 years. The exact date of this particular composition is difficult to ascertain, because as every year His Highness produced lots of them. His Highness composition extend to all kinds of musical form, etc., etc. And then he says about these and many other pieces composed by His Highness are very popular in South India. Next. And very interesting quote. Thank you. Vishaga Tirunal is asked this question. Is there any system of notes in use among Travancore musicians beside that of Tanjore or some other place, or simply writing the letters with perhaps a dirgha or note sign where necessary? And he replied, music is never taught in Travancore under any system of notation. But he said in the next sentence, it is taught more like Vedas or by oral instruction. When Balachandar quoted this, he left that last sentence purposefully, because that explains how it was taught. But he picked out the first sentence, and this is a very good example of what Adelot mentioned, that you pick sentences out of context to suit your argument. Unfaithful scholarship. Next. And the first song, the Swadhi Tirunal song that reverberated in Chennai was Deva Mamayi Pahi Shadanana. This is a Kedara Gaula, simple song in Kedara Gaula. Deva Mamayi Pahi Shadanana Divyage ki Vahana Shura Deva Mamayi. It refers to Haripad Subramanya. It says Hari Geetha Puram. So he sang it, and he says that people there liked it and invited him to sing it again, sing other songs of Swadhi Tirunal again. In his biography it is mentioned. He went there to study accountancy, because he became finally the account general of Travancore. Next. And again we see a British man writing music of southern India and Deccan. Teacher said about me getting papers from everywhere. I was a student in Cambridge 25 years ago. And the first day itself I walked to the Department of Music. I got this book, and to my surprise I found Swadhi Tirunal's song notation. It is notated in Western notation in 1891. So if people ask what was the form of Swadhi Tirunal's music, we have now an evidence to answer. Here it is. And later I will show that if you transcribe this to Carnatic notation and compare it with what is sung today, it is almost exactly same, which shows that his songs had an earlier form which continues now. We have more than one proof, not one. Next. And he also says, can you go back? It also says they are widely popular, possibly because the king has composed it. That is a reference that the Sahib also makes. Next. And this is a book which is my family property. You know, my great grandmother had 2 copies of this book. 1892, not cited in any of the scholarly works so far. And it is, Swadhi Tirunal is mentioned as a great master of music, and 33 Sanskrit compositions are given, it has a very crude form of notation that it has tried out, possibly the first attempt to notate. Next. And again, this is a book which is referred to in Kerala, but I firmly believe that nobody has seen this. After a tremendous effort and thanks to Professor Ramanathan of Department of Music, University of Madras, I got my hands onto this very, very rare book. It has two surprises. One, it has notations of 4 songs. One is, of course, not surprisingly, Sarasa Samamuga. And the next one is also a very beautiful song. I just wish that that was more popular than Sarasa Samamuga. That is a Kamboji song. Pada sa nati muni jana sugama pavana charita karuna lavala sundaranga vibhavari shamanogna mugapadasa. That song is given in full, song is given in notation with lyrics. Not only that, this person says he is a person native of Chennai, a MA holder and a Christian, not a Hindu. This is just for the argument I am saying. And he says, he discusses whether Swarakshara is a good practice or a bad one. Some people say it is a cheap practice to correspond swaras with Sahitya. My reading is that, again I have no evidence, Swadhiranal did it because there was no notation system here. So if you have a few notes really indicating how the notation goes in the Sahitya itself, then that serves the purpose. That could have been his thought. He says, such a distinguished authority as Kulasegara Maharaja did not think it beneath his dignity to use Swarakshara. So it must be good. That is what he is saying. And I heard one musician asking, has anybody heard any reference to Swadhiranal singing? Here is one. This is the only one I could find. Chinnaswamy Mudaliyar says, when a person went and sang before Swadhiranal a composition in Swarakshara, he at once produced a number of pieces of the same kind to show that he himself was capable of doing a great deal more without difficulty. That is what he says. It is simply the most beautiful words that rang in my ears. The secondary proof that he was known as a singer. Next. And Sangeeta Balabodham is again a book I haven't seen in any reference anywhere, and it contains 9 songs without notation, mentions name of Swadhiranal. Gayaka Lochanam, again the book by the disciple of Shyama Shastri's son, has 9 songs, 12 compositions of Malayalam Kulasegara Maharajuguri Krudulu. That is how it is referred. And Devi Bhagavatam Kilipat by Shankaranatha Joshi, who was a person who went from Kerala to Lahore to serve Ranjit Singh and then came back. The story of him, it says, the king born under star Swadhi and a Kalanidhi of all arts. So his name and fame was there, far ahead of what C.P. Ramasamy Iyer or Chammagudu Srinivas Iyer did. Next. The most clinging evidence about his Vagayagara status thankfully comes from Muthuswami Dikshitar's family, not from Trivandrum. Subbarama Dikshidhar is grandson of Muthuswami Dikshidhar. Muthuswami Dikshidhar did not have children. Muthuswami Dikshidhar's brother's grandson is Subbarama Dikshidhar. He was a composer himself and has written a huge book called Sangeeta Sampradaya Pradarshini. In 1904 he wrote. In that he has given 72 biographies of great composers, one of which is Kulasegara Perumal, Maharaja of Travancore. And he says, composed innumerable Chaukavarnams, vast number of Kirtanams in Sanskrit language, with the Mudra Padmanabha. Friends, can you imagine how he was informed? I am very thankful to Tanjore Quartet. I am sure that it is they who spread the great name of the king in South India. I have no doubt about it. I am very, unlike people who criticize them, I am very thankful to them. And the compositions of 2 songs with notation is there. Sarasa Samamuga is there, obviously. And Sami Ninne Edugula Kamboji Padavarna and Mandaradhara in Todi. All of this given in notations. Next. So state manual contains reference, and the important point is that these songs are sung to this day by men and women in remote Telugu villages lying on banks of Krishna and Godavari, not Karamana, in 1906. Next. And my son is here helping me with the PowerPoint. You know, he accompanied me to a library, was very bored. He pulled out a book and gave it to me. And I was shocked to see that that book contains 9 songs. 9 songs written by a lady called Kalyani Kutti Ammachi. And she is actually a parody writer. She writes songs and then says, please sing like this song. Mattu. Inna mattil padanam naan ezhudhirikkunnu. Which shows, common sense tells us that means the other song which is used as Mattu is popular. Otherwise, who would give it as Mattu? So, you see that he has given 9 songs. Very surprisingly, 3 of them are Hindustani songs of Sadhu Irunal. People say it was not in practice, but 3 of them are given as models for singing. And one sample of her song is here. It is very obvious that she exactly follows the rhythm and the letter formats so that it is easy for people to sing. In Kujalya Bhakyanam, there is a song. Bhajasina kimbada kamalesham Bhajasina kimbada kamalesham Bhajasina kimbada kamalesham. And she writes, Yadukula Nayaka Jagadisha Yadukula Nayaka Jagadisha Yadukula Nayaka. So, like that 9 songs are given. But unfortunately, the Hindi songs, we don't know what its format was now. But we have reason to believe that it had a format because it was used as a model for singing. And similarly, in a book called Nishadam, also 2 songs are given. Next. And Pavanashan Shivan, the great Tamil composer whom we call as Tamil Tyagayya, he listened to, when he was in Trivandrum, he studied school in Trivandrum inside the East Fort, in the Sanskrit school. And he says, he listened to Vidwan singing Kridis of Sadhu Tirunal in the Padmanabhaswamy temple. By name he refers. And he says his guru was Nurani Mahadeva Bhagavathar, and he had a nickname, Swarakudukai. I imagine he was somebody like T.V. Shankaranarayanan, who could just explode with swaras. And son of Parameswara Bhagavathar, close friend of Sadhu Tirunal. And he vividly recalls the Swaraprastara at Pragadabhala. Now we don't sing at Pragadabhala, we sing at the Charanam. Sakala bhuvana bhaya charana padu charita jagala. That is the phrase. And there a lot of Swara was taken. He heard this. Now interestingly, he left Trivandrum soon after, went to Chennai, and the first job he got was to teach music to children of Advocate Sundaram Iyer. The youngest child was called S. Balachandar, who became a great Veena exponent later. So I would like to say, Balachandar is actually a member of the Sadhu Tirunal lineage. And if he had any doubt about Sadhu Tirunal, he should have simply gone and asked his guru. Everything would have been sorted out then and there. This PhD would not have been necessary. Next. There is a book called Bhagavad Bhajana Bhattadi, again referred here, but I don't know whether anybody has seen because it is in Telugu. So I got the copy of it from Madras University Music Library, and it has 52 compositions written in Telugu. And this is in 1913, and it has the song Srisha Padmanabha in Khamas, which is not mentioned before that in any work. That means some songs were known in Tamil Nadu which were not known here. And I also am happy to say I fished out the gramophone records, earliest gramophone records in India, and searched all of them to see if there were Sadhu Tirunal songs. And are you surprised that I found Sarasa Samamuga in it? In 1916, Apunni Menon of Kochi sang Sarasa Samamuga, Adi, and it says Malayalam. That is what the reference is. There is actually another song in 1911 itself, Kosalendra Mamava, but I believe it is not Sadhu Tirunal's composition. It is actually Margadarshi Sheshayenga's composition, wrongly sung as Sadhu Tirunal composition. So the date is 1916. Chidambara Vadiyar, of course, well known, 311 songs in lyrics but no notations. Next. And Karanamrita Sagaram by Abraham Pandidar in 1917 from Tamil Nadu and Tanjore, he writes gloriously about Sadhu Tirunal as a great composer. Next. Lakshmana Pillai's essays on Travancore music has again very glorious references like this. One he says that he could do the reverse also. He could, if you sing swara, he could write sahitya. If he could write sahitya, he could put swarakshara to it. Both of it he could do. Next. And I want all of the music students here to understand the reference point for notation of Sadhu Tirunal is 1918 work Balamridam. 125 songs are notated. Never get into any debate without referring to this book. Somebody says Smarajanaka Shubhajarida in Bihar is notated by somebody in Tamil Nadu in 1924. But how is it possible? Because in 1918 book the same notation is given. Some people say Sri Ramana Vibho. I think you all know this song in Arabic. It is notated by Balamurali Krishna. But in 1918, about 12 years before Balamurali Krishna was born, the same notation is printed. How? That is why I said this must be a reference point. And Balamurali Krishna also wrote a song which is exactly like Sri Ramana Vibho, Sri Sagala Ganadipa Palaya. It exact same notation. And he also followed it with a book called Sangeeta Rangam. It has got notation for Hindustani songs. Vishweshwara in the original ragas Danyasi, and Sumarana in Kapi, Suno Sagi, and Eri Aliri Gori, that in Bihar. All of these notations are available. Next. Many more, but I don't list because of want of time. The handout I have given contains that. Next. And I also would like to say, people say the palace started the music college to promote Sadhu Tirunal. That is true. There is nothing wrong with it. Nobody needs to be apologetic about that. But I would like to say, a few years before that, an ordinary person from Trivandrum had started a school called Sadhu Tirunal School. As a proof, I show before you the certificate issued to them from Kulitharai for the Vavu Beli exhibition in 1110 ME. It says to issue to Sri Sadhu Tirunal Sangeeta Vidyalayam. The Baligas there have made a Subhadra Abharanam, some drama play, and the certificate is there. I also have the letter that he wrote to Sri Chitra Tirunal requesting for grant. All this information is available. His wife knew 150 songs. The first thing that Muthaiya Bhagavathar did when he came to Trivandrum was to call this lady and ask her to sing, and he wrote down the notations. And 15 students who first joined the music academy were taken from the school with 15 rupee scholarship. And the condition was that they should already know 30 Sadhu Tirunal songs, which means when the school started, there were people who knew 30 songs, young people who knew 30 songs, and seniors who knew 150 songs. Next. Okay, I've written here 5 rupee scholarship to students who knew at least 30. So, Tangachi, Indirabai Tangachi passed away just two months back. It is her father who started the school. Next. So, on pre-1937 evidences, I can say I have listed 67 sources of evidences on musical and poetic works of Sadhu Tirunal. They clearly reconfirm that Sadhu Tirunal was a composer of Carnatic music, was quite well known not only in Kerala but outside Kerala. Next. And I have a lot to say, but I will only summarize with this table. People say Muthaiya Bhagavathar and Chemmagudi Srinivasa Iyer notated all Sadhu Tirunal songs. I have a table here. Muthaiya Bhagavathar notated 103 songs. And on the right side, I have said what is already available. 51% of it is already available in Ranganatha Iyer's book. We must always know that. And then, what is available in Ranganatha Iyer's book, we write one below the other, we find that Muthaiya Bhagavathar added embellishments to these songs. They didn't retune. They added embellishment. A great scholar and a composer like Muthaiya Bhagavathar possibly would not have accepted what he saw. He would have added something. And Chemmagudi Srinivasa Iyer also I have listed here, about 77% of what he did was already known. And actually what he did, 27% of it was overlapping with Muthaiya Bhagavathar. These are all very interesting things which people haven't noticed. Next. And retuning and the controversy is actually 35 songs were obtained without lyrics. They were retuned. There is no debate about it. There is no argument about it. They were retuned by Muthaiya Bhagavathar and Chemmagudi Srinivasa Iyer. When they did that, They did something unfair, they did not mention that they tuned it. Rather, they just passed it off as Swadhiranal composition. I don't think that was a fair thing to do. That actually created confusion that everything was done by them. They could have said. And those were special ragas which were not there in Swadhiranal's earlier compositions. That is what caused the confusion. But I would like to say, this is only 10% of the total number of compositions attributed to Swadhiranal. This cannot be a huge controversy about the person. 10% of songs. Next. Here is a comparison. 1891, Sarasa Samamuga, notated by the British man C.R. Day. 1919 by Ranganatha Iyer. And 1942 by Muthaiya Bhagavathar. Please take a look and decide for yourself. In bioinformatics, we call the sequence alignment. You write one below the other to see how DNA sequences are similar. Same thing can be done for songs also. And you see that they have evolved. They have not been recreated. They have just evolved. Next. So, I come to just two arguments that Balachandar made. There was no king by the name Swadhiranal who ruled Travancore during 1829 to 1846. His argument is that one book said his name, date of birth wrong. So he accepted that wrong one and then made all his arguments around that, and it falls completely flat. Next. Swadhiranal's fame was perpetuated in a planned manner by the royal family in 1940s and tried to build larger than life image. If at all somebody did it, the credit must first go to Dikshitar's family for having created a larger than life image by saying that Swadhiranal composed innumerable number of songs and was a great composer. Why don't we go back and make the allegation more factually correct? And then to Ranganatha Iyer, because he published 125 notated songs. So that is all kind of hidden in the arguments. And we have now brought evidence that Telugu and Tamil works of 1859, 1877, 1904, 1912, 1925, all this already contains Swadhiranal's notated songs. So where is the point in saying that somebody did something artificial? Now, why it is not observed correctly is that it is not seen in the social context. In 1930s, printing became much more popular. A lot of newspapers started coming, a lot of media started expanding. In Trivandrum, an All India Travancore radio station was established. Gramophone became popular. So every composer benefited. Swadhiranal also naturally benefited. When every state has its icon and they promote it through using technology. When a website comes, Swadhiranal website was made. So similarly, when the radio station came, it was populated, with Swadhiranal songs. Next. Many or all songs of Swadhiranal have their music set by courtiers. Tanjore Quartet. My pronouns to Tanjore Quartet, they were a great set of people. My only difference of opinion is they should not be called Tanjore Quartet, at least Vadivelu. Vadivelu should actually be called Trivandrum Vadivelu, because at a very young age he came here, he died here, this was his home. That was the only disagreement I have with them. And very interesting thing is they have published a book called Ponnaiya Manimala, in which all the compositions that they claim is that of Tanjore Quartet is listed. And do you know what is there? Next. Go back, previous. Maybe I will come to that. Next. Retuning continues. Somehow I feel that people have taken Swadhiranal as free for all. You can take a song and then sing it in any raga that you like. There is a song called Kalaye Deva Deva, and the people now, it is in Malahari, but people sing it in Ranjini. Kalaye Deva Devam. Beautiful song, but unfortunately beautiful song, so we cannot go back to Malahari. And similarly, Parivahi Ganadiba is very popular song, sung every year in the Navaratri Mandavam. Paripahi Ganadiba. But a great musician comes one day to the Kudaramaliga and sings Paripahi Ganadiba Basuramurte. Paripahi Ganadiba Basuramurte. I don't know why. Similarly, Karanam Vinakaryam is now sung in Hamsa Vinodini. Next. This is the Ponnaiya Manimala. They claim only 134 songs as compositions of Tanjore Quartet, out of which only 10 we are interested. Only 10 of them overlap with Swadhiranal. I think it is a very good settlement to say, please take all these 10 and let us close the controversy. Only 10 songs. And they are not Sanskrit compositions, which is the mainstay of Sadhutirunal. And I think good research should be done, because many of these songs are not attributed to an individual. 73 songs, nobody knows who among the Tanjore quartet composed. That itself is a good research topic. Next. So this is Sadhutirunal and Vadivelu. This is what you are seeing is the famous Danda violin that was gifted by Sadhutirunal to Vadivelu. It is with their family. Their descendant Chandrasekhar has that. This photo was given by him. Next. There is another argument, very interesting argument, which says, all the books says Sadhutirunal kalpichundakiya kridigal. And therefore, it means he ordered his courtiers to make songs and then it was run under his name. That is an example of what Adelot said, the famous researcher Adelot said, reading things in current language than in the language in which the text comes from. I have shown here 1865 Government Gazette, Travancore Government Gazette, available in the Legislature Library. It says, Maharaja has been pleased to make the following appointments. And the Malayalam translation is given below that. Keezhparayunna nichayangale kalpichu cheydirikkunnu. That means, when you say kalpichundaki, it means pleased to make. Maharaja was pleased to make. Who made? Maharaja. And again, if you don't stick to this translation, you have many funny other things you will have to accept logically. മഹാരാജാവ് സോദരനാൾ മഹാരാജാവ് മരിച്ചിട്ടേ ഇല്ല. കാരണം എന്താണ്? രേഖയിൽ എഴുതിയിരിക്കുന്ന നാട് നീങ്ങി എന്നാണ് എഴുതിയിരിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ അപ്പുറത്ത് വല്ലതും കാണും, തമിഴ്നാട്ടിലും വല്ലതും കാണും. ദെൻ ഈവൻ യു സേ മഹാരാജാവ് കൽപ്പിച്ച് അമൃതയത്ത് കഴിച്ചു എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ എന്താ അർത്ഥം? മഹാരാജാവ് അവിടെ ഇരുന്ന് കൽപ്പിക്കും, വേറെ ആരോ അമൃതയത്ത് കഴിക്കും, അങ്ങനെയാണോ? അല്ല. ഇത് വെരി ഓബ്വിയസ്ലി റോങ്, വെരി ഓബ്വിയസ്ലി റോങ്. ബട്ട് ഐ ഹിയർ പീപ്പിൾ ഈവൻ നൗ റെഫറിങ് ടു ദിസ്. നെക്സ്റ്റ്. And Kulashegara. Then people ask in Madras, people ask, why is he called Kulashegara? That is very confusing because everybody is a Kulashegara. Now, poor Tanjore quartet did not know about history and what confusion their reference would create. When they heard Maharaja's name, it was Kulashegara, Sadhutirunal, Ramavarma, Kulashegara. That adjective was used. Tanjore quartet found the most interesting word as Kulashegara. The reason is that Kulashegara Alvar is a very sacred name for Tamilians, not for us also. And therefore, they found the attractive point from there and then picked it up and used it as a name. That created confusion because every Raja is called Kulashegara. But that is not their fault. It is like if you write history of India, you will have to refer to Mrs. Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi as Mrs. Gandhi. And then somebody says that is Indira Gandhi. That confusion, similar confusion. So from context, you can actually resolve that. Next. I conclude with the final part of my study. I did a stylometric analysis. When Shakespeare's work were under cloud of confusion about authorship, they did a stylometric study. I did the same thing for Sadhutirunal's Sanskrit compositions. So we used something called a word print analysis. And next. So what I did was, I collected the text of all compositions of the Trinity and Sadhutirunal and wrote a program to find out what word occurs how many times in them. Very interestingly, all the Trinity and Sadhutirunal, the most common word used is Sri. They use that word in the almost all compositions. So Tyagaraja has Rama and then Sri and Tyagaraja himself. That is the next word that is most popular. So this count was taken. It is a difficult task because the text has to be obtained in a standard format. Luckily, we got it from Lakshman Ragde, a person in Canada. So this was done. Next. So this is for Dikshidhar, his word print. We call this the word print. Next. And for Shyama Shastri. Shyama Shastri has much lesser number of compositions. So the work doesn't really, the style doesn't suit him. Next. And then Sadhutirunal. So what did I do? I selected 187 undisputed Sadhutirunal compositions, which were known before 1937 to be his. And even among that, what I doubted, I kept out. And then created a word print. And you see that Sri comes first, Jaya, Padmanabha, that is what comes. Next. And then I defined what is known as a word score of a composition. This is sum of frequency count of each word in the composition divided by count of words. And then, for example, the song, Kamboji's song, Nama Sudamai, for each word, Nama, it comes 5 times in Sadhutirunal composition, so we put 5 here. Sudha comes 6 times in all the compositions, so we put 6 here. So that you get a count total, then you divide it by the number of words, you get a score for the composition. It actually indicates how strong it contains the words that are frequently used by Swadhi Tirunal. That is what it gives. And then I plotted a graph. Next. It is a trimmed mean of a trimmed distribution. That means very extreme values have been taken off. And then I drew a graph and took the average and standard deviation. The average is about 16, the standard deviation is about 4. That means if it falls below the mean by more than 4, then the confidence in that composition is low. If it falls below 16 by 8, the confidence is even lower. And what did I find? Next. Okay, next. And then plus that, you cannot use this method just like that. You have to use internal and external evidences together with that. What are internal evidences? Does it have a mudra? What deity is addressed? If it is Padmanabha in Trivandrum, more likely his. But if it is Brihadishwara in Tanjore, more unlikely to be his. Raga used, is it already known to the composer? Structure of the composition, the length of the Pallavi and so on. And rhyming patterns, what the meter is used. Sometimes this is a good area of study. The famous song Pannagendra Shayana, when we sing, we don't see anything Malayali in it. But if you sing the lyrics alone, innocently, you will see that it is written by a Malayali. Because it is in Nadonnada Vrta. Pannagendra Shayana Sri Padmanabha Mudakama Sanna Manava Mamava Mama Kalibho Udititara Ditittai. This is the song. But when you sing it in as a composition, you don't hear this. So those are internal evidences that a Malayali composed it. This has to be researched. I don't know whether Tamilians wouldn't use Nadonnada, but this is something that struck me. External evidence is general tradition attributing the piece to the composer, authorship attribution in print and its frequency, how many times it is said as his, etc. Next. And what I found out was, I have listed a number of songs for which the confidence level is low. The doubted compositions, the confidence level is low. One is Pahimam Brihannaige in Husaini. It doesn't have Padmanabha Mudra. It refers to Tanjore Brihadishwara. Very unlikely that Swadhi would have composed it, but we cannot rule out. One day I decide that I will write about the person who wrote about Kashi Vishweshwara, can also write about Tanjore Brihadishwara. But this is the argument. Its score is only 8.67, so the confidence level is low. Bhogindra Shayanam is a very famous controversy. A lot of things to say about it. It has Mudra. Padmanabha Mudra, it refers to Martanda Varma, and so some people say it is his. There is some documentary evidence which also indicates that it is his, but we are not sure. When I calculated its score is very low, 6.39. Some people say it is Iraiman Thambi's. I cannot argue, but I also believe it is Iraiman Thambi's, because Iraiman Thambi in its Kadagali lyrics is very famous for writing Dandagas. Dandaga is a very long sentence. Shonindra Patni Ude. Actually, you can sing Shonindra Padni in Kundalavarali, it would sound like this. Shonindra Padni Ude Vani Nishamyam Punareni Vilochana Nadungi Mirina Galangi Chaduladayil Mayangi Bhogindra Shayinam Purukujaladayinam. It rhymes with that, but I cannot argue. If somebody says, no, that is not possible, then I would say, fine, let us not argue. It will remain under a cloud of doubt. Many of the songs which are confusing will remain under a cloud of doubt. And two Ragamaligas, their scores are so low, 5.75 and 3.67. And the evidence that we have otherwise is also very low. No document up to 1976 says it is Swadhi Tirunal's. Up to 1976. So later attributions are always looked upon with doubt. So I would say these cannot be reckoned as his. Anyway, it is only 4 Sanskrit lines. There is no music available. Somebody has set it to music. Next. I am closing now. I would like to say I have made 20 publications out of my research, and my final, I would say the final happy acceptance that I got was, Swadhi Tirunal controversy erupted in 2 magazines. One is Kumudam in Tamil Nadu, and another is the journal Shruti. So with great amount of effort and persuasion, I managed to publish a paper in Shruti during the bicentenary year of Swadhi Tirunal in Madras. And in that journal, they called the retired editor K.V. Ramanathan, who was the editor at the time of the controversy. They called him to write a reply to my article. And he has written, Dr. Nair has marshaled a considerable volume of evidence from contemporary and later sources as testimony to the existence and work of Swati Tirunal. I would suggest that we now treat the controversy in this matter as finally settled. I am very, very happy that I could make him say this. He put some conditions, but none of which I am disagreeable to. That is his perception, but this statement is very heartening to me. After about 35 years of arguments, here is a person from Tamil Nadu saying the controversy is over. And next. And I twice was lucky to go and make presentations in the Madras Music Academy. I did it very carefully without hurting anybody, but put across my points, and that is why possibly Professor K.V. Ramanathan found it acceptable. Next. And there was a mention about this website. In 2002, I could set up this website. I hope it served the cause of promoting Swati Tirunal's history and songs. It was done by CDIT. Next. And I am also happy to show you this. And sort of Amar Chitra Gada has been produced on Swati Tirunal from Madras. This is very noteworthy point by Ms. Lakshmi Devnath. And I am also very happy that she has put me as a character in that Amar Chitra Gada. You know, at the last slide you see that I am making a presentation answering the controversy. On the top is Balachandar, on the top is C.P. Ramaswamy. So I am very happy that I have become a part of history like that. And next. You know, there is often this talk, is Swati Tirunal equal to the Trinity? One of the issues raised by Balachandar was the photograph, painting of Swati Tirunal kept aside Trinity. Now, as a scientist, I can say there are no ways of having a foolproof method to compare two persons and say they are equal. This is a very subjective opinion. So I won't go into that. Some people say, you know, Tyagaraja is the foremost, you know, because the number of compositions, the beauty of his compositions. But then some followers of Shyama Shastri says, why write so many? Just one is enough. The Bhairavi Surajadi is enough. He is the greatest. So some people say, you know, Dikshidhar, you know, he puts mantras into the compositions and, you know, his Sahitya is so structured and, you know, his music nuances of music is so great. So they think he is great. We have disagreement with none of them because this is basically love. Those who fall in love say that, you know, their loved one is the most beautiful in the world. So we understand it. But then my argument is that, you know, Carnatic music is not music of Tamil Nadu, it is music of whole India, at least of South India. And when you portray a music as music of a region, it must have local icons. So the Trinity is an icon for whole India. I have no doubt about it. They are a class apart, they are an icon for whole India. But then if you wanted to cover the whole South India, you must have Purandaradasa to represent Karnataka. Of course, he is father of Carnatic music, Pidamaha. And then we must have Annamacharya to represent Andhra and Swati Tirunal to represent Kerala. Only then it would warm up the mind of everybody in South India. It is not because they are equal. They are in their own ways. Each of them in their own ways are great and they have done their contributions. Let us try to not look at it as a question of equity. Everybody at different times have their own roles. As far as Swati Tirunal is concerned, the tragedy is that, you know, he imported modern science from the British, and the British were the ones who became his nemesis. They attacked him. They kind of spoiled his life. He imported Carnatic music from Tanjore and Madras, and it was a person from Madras who maligned his name. In that way, it is very tragic. His life was very tragic. And I have not made any mention about personal life of Swati Tirunal. There are many controversies and many allegations. To me, it is all irrelevant. As I said earlier, I respect him as an artist, as a great composer, as a great singer. As a person, my understanding is that in the times that he lived in, there was nothing strange in his behavior. Even if somebody alleges, I am totally comfortable with that. I don't care. Because an artist has to be judged based on the artistic output, not on his personal life. So I haven't made any mention about his personal life in my thesis, nor would I wish to. Even though I am very greatly interested to know who were his girlfriends and, you know, what happened between them. But that is not what we use to judge an artist. So I place the humble work that I have done before you. I am of an age that I am not overwhelmed by emotion, otherwise I would have, because it is 35 years of passion that I have downloaded and poured into the thesis, and a glimpse of it I have shared with you. I thank you very much for the very patient listening, and I hope we will all continue to enjoy Swadhiranal's music without really worrying about the nasty things that have been said about him. And my pranams to his mother, because it was his mother who was maligned when it was said that he was not born to a mother. I stopped by saying that Swadhiranal, born to a mother, born on 16th April 1813, and who passed away at 4 a.m. on 27th December 1846, 15 days before Saint Tyagaraja passed away. My pranams to Swadhiranal, and I place this work before the scholars and all the audience here. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
I have given 20 minutes, you have taken 1 hour. That's very good. But if you have this stuff, that's why I have taken. Otherwise, even 10 minutes you cannot manage. This Vaivavosi University authorities has come for them also my namaskarams. Dr. Achyuthan Nair himself, yes, Nair, proves he is a scholar and he is a practical man also, performer. Already having the degree in his subject. He already produced 10 or 12 students also, produced a PhD, I think, 20 PhD already he produced. Has traveled many countries, has given interviews and demonstrations, paper presentations, etc. As a music, I heard about him. I point out some points here. As a music lover, collected many informations about music and especially about Swati Tirunal. Has written articles in Shruti and in others updated journals and magazines about Swati Tirunal. Presented paper in Music Academy Madras about Swati Tirunal and his life. This thesis evaluated 3 professors. All are given the excellent reports. They suggested them to publish this work also. Only positive, no negative aspect in this thesis. I have read so many theses, 50 theses I have read already, but one few theses are very excellent. Even this thesis also included for that. I am happy to say this. That credit goes to Dr. B. Pushpa, Professor B. Pushpa, and Achuthsankar Nair also. I will, some points I will read this. This thesis submitted by Doctor already he got no in his subjects. That's why I am telling. Dr. Achuthsankar Nair, who heads the State Inter-University Centre in Bioinformatics, University of Kerala, has dealt with the subject in a scientific and historic approach by giving suitable quotations in relevant areas. Overall, a commendable effort on a part of the researcher and also on part of the supervisor for having brought to light such an interesting subject which is very useful and informative. It also stands out as an example for a systematic methodology in research. Now coming to the thesis. This thesis is divided into 7 chapters, including the introduction and conclusion. Already has without any boring, has given all the detailed study of his subject. Already has told. The researcher has adopted a scientific approach and goes on proving that a person called Swati Tirunal did exist and has also provided necessary evidences to prove the same. The technique adopted is very logical. Some points only I will read. In this age I can forget, and that's why I am reading. The second chapter deals exhaustively on the aspects of research methodology in science and fine arts. In page number 23 in table number 2.1, the first kriti mentioned as a Namorabatti. Namorabatti. I think it is not Nimorabatti. Please call it. Only spelling mistake, I think. Chapter 3 deals with the historicity of the person, where the researcher gives pertinent information about the person by showing records taken from various sources. He is also known to be a brilliant person in mathematics, geometry. Further information about establishing the Raja school and the changes that were brought in are highlighted well. The researcher has attempted to list the composition from the time of Swati Tilak to current times chronologically. Here, a detailed analysis is carried out from various manuscripts, and also the authenticity of the compositions are well justified. Chapter number 5 is an interesting chapter where the researcher has attempted to compute the compositions based on stylometric analysis. The last chapter is the conclusion and the suggestions for further research. Here the researcher has in a point form listed out the findings and proving them and their authenticity of the composer and his compositions. He has also suggested the scope of future research, thereby providing a platform for further analysis. This is followed by appendixes. It is found that in one photography, the artist pointed as Sita Lakshmi is actual, that is Sita Raja. She is my class, she was my class. Performing. Also, there are some spelling mistakes, one or two, that should be there. Without that, that's it. From technical terms like Sarajiti, that's minor. Otherwise, this thesis deserves all appreciation and can hence be conferred with the PhD degree. And the candidate wishes to publish this as a book, he is requested to incorporate a few corrections. Enough. I congratulate the Shankar, Achuthsankar Nair. That is some different name, no, that's forgot. Anyhow, good thesis. This included the very good work for the music field, I think. That credit goes to first Dr. B. Pushpa. Always, she has already produced already 25? 20, this is 22.
22nd Suji, mine.
Yeah, almost 10 students came, I think. University Kerala, always inviting me. I am happily accepting. This is one Avinabhava Sambandha is there, no? Kerala and me. One Avinabhava Sambandha is there. Anytime they call, I am in my hectic work, I am accepting. The 15th I have go to Visakhapatnam. 17th I have to come in for this university. 17th I am going to some 17th I am coming here. 20th I am going to Tirupati. More thesis. In that I have, if I come to some universities, they will get you one degree, but so good thesis will come. Definitely I will agree. Any thesis comes with Pushpa, definitely I am accepting. This is I am with my credit, I am my fortune to conduct the Vaibhavasi. I am happily conducting. Thank you, Dr. Achyuta S. Already Dr. Achyuta S. Nair. Thank you. God bless you. You are all the best blessing with him. Thank you. Vocalist always should have the good voice that he has. I am entering the room, a good voice was hearing. I asked Dr. Pushpa, who's this voice? This is today's candidate voice. He is already famous, but today he is a student. Now he is Dr. Shankar, double doctor.
Friends, it is my privilege and pride to propose a vote of thanks for the open defense function. I have already mentioned, Dr. Pushpa is my supervising teacher who really, due to many coincidences, we came together to collaborate. I think just because she loved the song Kagai Chiraganile, which I also love. And I must also remember her husband, who asked her to come and listen in the Doordarshan when I was singing. I am told she was in the kitchen. She was dragged out of the kitchen and made to listen. And I would like to say, she criticizes so gently, but she praises so generously. I am a person who has grown up listening to music of very great masters, so I can never pardon my singing, but also I can never hold back my passion for singing. Not that I think it is great, but it is impossible for me not to sing. But I always feel ashamed that I am singing because T.V. Shankaranarayan's music comes in my front whenever I sing, and then I feel ashamed. And I would have never sung but for Dr. Pushpa, who pulled me out of the shell that I had, and she told me that, you have to sing, you have to do a concert. And I couldn't believe. But then she held my hands gently, pulled me through, and so softly. And when I had a terrible concert, she would say, very excellent, we are very proud. And then she would gently say, there are at least 75 phrases in Bandhavirali that you must have when you sing the raga. You had almost 70, 5 more you have to try. But then I think she got the numbers wrong. It was actually 5 that I had and 70 more I had. Very, very gentle person. So, I'm deeply indebted to her for my music life. And she treated me, there would be other professors who would have been offended. She calls me and, requests me to arrange things and all that. Normally it is the other way around, that the student goes to the teacher and does that. She has treated me so well, like a mother, and I think she is a person who can bring people out of their shell and do their maximum. And her book that she wrote with Kidakkamana Govindan Nair, I think it is one of the richest source of primary evidence about Swadhiranal. My thesis has referred to it left and right. And she also is a person who brought out English note of Swadhiranal. Nobody has ever heard in Kalyani Raga. And she has notated it, and she has published in her PhD thesis, which I have also reported. In all ways, I would say I'm indebted to her for leading me through this PhD thesis. And I am also very happy that I might be a better guide to my students, because now I know how difficult it is to be at the other end of the table. When I guided students, it was a very different cup of tea. So at this age, to be a student also was a very enriching experience. From my bottom of my bottomless heart, teacher, I thank you so much. And Professor Jayashree seems to be like Dr. Pushpa. She is very gentle. Actually, there are so many spelling mistakes that I myself located after I submitted. And she only pointed out 2. Okay. I will correct it. And if your recommendation goes to the university, I would wish that the book gets published and that it is sold in Madras. That is my interest. Thank you, ma'am, for taking all the pains to come over here. You come here very often. We look forward to you coming here again and again and again. Thank you so much. Dr. Bhavana is known to me for a very long time. When I was director of CDIT, we made the Swadhi website. A lot of people sang for it. Dr. Pushpa sang about 25 compositions. Dr. Bhavana sang maybe 12. And Krishna Chandra Radha is my favorite. I'm very happy to tell you, almost every month I hear that in my car, again and again and again. Thank you so much for making all these arrangements. Thank you very much. I don't want to name everybody and take time. So many people who have encouraged me. Malayanga Coalition sir is here. He is my media consultant. Whatever small thing I do, he reports it in Madhurabhumi. Virappangodu Murali sir, Sri M.A. Baby. These are all people at the media and politics who have really been supportive of me. And my friends, Dr. Dilip is here, Mr. Dilip is here, Saeed is here, they're all great supporters and great promoters of whatever small things I do. my family, my wife Hema, my daughter Gayatri, who was also a singer, my son, who, they all put up with my obsession on Sadhu. But I think it is time for me to retire from Sadhu research, because I very proudly say I did whatever I think I could have done. I also atoned for my first PhD. I think when I did my research, when I was very young, I did research to get 3 letters, P, H and D, very eagerly looking for that. But this one I didn't do to get any PhD. Why I went through the PhD process was, when the book is published, I wanted to be considered as, with more gravity, that it was a PhD thesis. That is the only reason I went through this. And I had to suffer a lot. Some of you must have seen, there was a lot of controversy about the registration given to me, and there were media reports that were ours. But I don't care. I did all this for finding the truth about a great personality, great son of Kerala. And I thank all of you, for putting up with my obsession, promoting me and supporting me, and always being nice to me. It would be a very strange thing that I would also like to say. This place is protected by a person called Jayakumar. He is called a security here. But I think that he is Buddha standing beside that tree. He stands beside that tree, and if you get a chance to go and talk to him, you will find that he is a great philosopher. He knows Sanskrit, he knows Tamil, he knows English, he has read Narayana Guru, he has read Chilapadigaram, he has read Veda, Upanishad. I also am so happy when I come here that, starting from the security, there are scholars here in this campus. So I also fondly remember Jayakumar for giving being so nice to me and being my promoter. So all the students here, all the research scholars, all the fellow teachers who have many times accompanied me in concerts, and all of you, please forgive me if I miss picking out your names and boring you. All of you are dear to me, and thank you so much. And I promise that I will stop talking about Sadhu Tirunal. Thank you very much. I just like to give a small gift to the department, a photograph to be displayed here in the hall, because this photograph promotes him as a king. I want him to be promoted as an artist, so I have a special photograph for that. I request Dr. Pushpa to give it to the head of the department.